storm as it heads our way, but there still could be surges of 2 to 4 feet in many areas, and that's enough to cause some flooding along the coastline. Now, back into Pinellas County, I've been watching the reports out of the Clearwater Airport, the St. Pete Clearwater Airport. 60, 64-mile-an-hour wind gusts on the backside of this storm as Irma pulls away. And that's what you're going to see here. Southern Hillsborough County is already becoming windy. Southern Polk, you're getting the winds now out of the southwest, and this area of strong winds is going to work its way up 75 over the next hour. So Tampa, Brandon, Valrico, Fishhawk, Waimama, down towards Palmetto, Apollo Beach, your winds will be going up. Thornado, Sassa, back over towards Zephyr Hills. This is Wesley Chapel, Lutz, down towards West Chase. It's calm now. East Lake, down towards maybe as far south as Palm Harbor. Things will then turn windier. Now, farther north, the winds are dropping in Newport Richey and Hudson, heading back over towards Brooksville. Remember, that's temporary. It's about an hour's worth of calm winds, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. And then the backside of the storm comes in, the winds pick up, and then this rain band that has just really been intensifying. Wind goes back over water, so we're picking up some moisture here too. And look at these heavy rain bands. Anywhere you see these yellows, these areas, the rain there could enhance the wind, pushing the stronger gusts down towards the surface. It's also an onshore flow, and that's going to start to pile up the Gulf of Mexico here, all around Manatee, Sarasota County, down towards the south. We're going to see that rise. This is also about the time of high tide in these areas, and I'll show you that here coming up. Current wind gusts, look at these wind gusts. We are still not out of it, folks. 55-mile-an-hour wind gust in Bartow, 41 in Wauchula. It's gusting to 52 in Brooksville, St. Pete, there downtown, 44-mile-an-hour wind gust and 32 in Tampa. The calmness there around Apollo Beach about to head north, and these stronger winds down south. Look at Sarasota, back to winds in the 40s as we go through the rest of the morning. That's going to shift on its way up. Wave heights will be diminishing as the storm moves up, but it's the surge that we're watching. So here are the updated numbers out of the latest advisory. Pasco North could see 4 to 6 feet. The Tampa Bay area 2 to 4 feet is kind of what we're expecting now, and then down south maybe 3 to 5 feet. So that's Manatee over towards Sarasota County. We'll be watching your beaches very closely. Not safe right now to go out there and try to see any of that. Here are where the high tides end up today. So we're right there at high tide or just past it in Clearwater. Tide's going to try to go out, but the wind's going to start to push the water back in. St. Pete, your tide coming in at 524, your high tide. By then, you'll be in that onshore flow for sure. So you're going to see a above average high tide for sure with that surge. Sarasota 409 is your time for high tide. You're getting that onshore flow now, so we're definitely going to see waters much higher than you would typically expect. Again, it could be several feet above where typical high tides end up on a day like today. Current winds out there without the gust, it's breezy. 30, 35, 40 miles an hour just sustained, gusting over 50 in many places, especially towards the east. Strongest wind core seems to be oriented from Polk County down into Hardy and northern Highlands County. That's where we're still getting those very strong wind gusts. I've seen very few reports out of here. One report I saw near Lakeland, a large tree fell on an apartment complex here. 8 people were displaced. It caused significant damage to that building, but officials say there were no reports of injuries to those 8 people. So that's certainly good news as they've been moved to a safer location because of that tree falling near them around the Lakeland area. I don't have a specific address or name of apartment for you, but there was some wind damage there. We'll continue to see these winds decrease, but not until later on this morning as we go through the day. As we watch Irma here, there's our futurecast model right there around the Bay Area, lift north. The back edge, the back rain bands, this is noon. We could still be feeling the effects of some of these back rain bands slamming into portions of Pinellas over towards Hillsborough County. Winds should begin to diminish by noon, but they will still be gusty, so you've got to be very careful. Remember, in some places, curfews will extend past noon, so really heed those curfews. Stay inside until they are lifted. As the rain lifts, the winds will diminish by the afternoon. More of a breezy to windy day versus these tropical storm force winds. Still could see some showers on the back edge of this storm as it picks up moisture off the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, it's going to be warm and humid, so if you're without AC, it is not going to be today's going to be the easiest day probably without AC because of the clouds and the rain will probably stay into the low 80s. But once we get past today, as Irma lifts away, we're going to return to more typical Florida weather, and that means heat. So watch the rain chances in Tampa. Look at this. They're going to drop back to about 40% by 4 o'clock. Those temperatures right around 80. This is going to be the most comfortable day in terms of temperature all week long, and then we're going to be back into the upper 80s and low 90s. And if you're without power, that's something that is definitely going to be definitely uncomfortable to deal with over the next several days, guys.
Yeah, Greg, I just got a text from some of my friends in Land O'Lakes, the Moore family. They say they've been watching all night long. They have never lost power. Said they've never lost power, and that's certainly a good thing because, of course, we all expected that we would lose power, but they said they never lost power. So that's certainly good news because, you know, when the sun comes up, it's going to get hot again.
We've got the latest number from TECO shows about 290,000 plus without power, but maybe an encouraging number out of that, 59% still have
That's
it.
good news.
So that is good. You know,
also, we're hearing, too, Polk Fire is resuming service, so that's
Okay.
a good news, too.
All right, that's very good. You know, the storm, as it continues to work through our area here, we are already starting to hear some very good stories coming into our newsroom. This is no exception
Yeah,
here.
this one, I tell you, I fought back tears with this one. Within the last hour, Lakeland Police posted these amazing pictures on their Facebook page. They say overnight, a team of officers got a report that a family was stranded in their car. That car was submerged in about 4 feet of water in a ditch on Swindell Road. Now, even though this was after midnight, and of course their curfew was in place because they were not told to go back out, they knew that Irma was on the way. Those rescue crews still headed out. When they got there, they found in that car 2 adults and 2 babies. 2 babies, get this, a 6-month-old and a 10-month-old inside that car. The water, this is where I fought back tears. The water had already reached those babies' car seats. But thankfully, those brave crews, they got everybody out safely and even took them back home safely before the storm peaked. Those are heroes. Those are the people who have been out all night long, keeping all of us safe. Just an incredible story. Just an incredible story.
Giving their service to the community, no question.
Absolutely, absolutely. We thank you so much for that.
I'm starting to get, we are, as in the newsroom here, getting a lot of questions about curfews right now. Here's what we have so far. I want to roll through these. If you're listening to us on the radio, we have Temple Terrace, Hillsborough, St. Pete, and Citrus counties are all under a curfew until further notice. When we get details on that, we will pass them along to you. Lee County's curfew will lift at 7 a.m., Pasco County, 11 a.m., Manatee County, 3 p.m., Sarasota, Polk, and Hernando, you have had no curfew enacted. Also, as of right now, we mentioned St. Pete under that curfew until further notice. I've had some people from Pinellas County messaging me this morning wondering outside of St. Pete if there's been a curfew enacted. We don't believe there was a curfew enacted there. Okay.
Yeah, so but even though one has not been enacted, just stay in place.
Listen
until,
to Dia.
Yeah, and no, not to me, not to me.
Listen to what Dia said.
Yeah, listen to what authorities are saying. Stay in place until daylight. They say it's just you just never know what you're going to encounter. Road. You know, we saw earlier, big tree that was down in the road, power line.
Force out there as soon as they can to make sure that they get those roads cleaned up faster so you can get home faster. So that is what they're working on doing right now. And aside from the curfew, as James just mentioned, while there isn't one in Pinellas County, they have blocked off the entire county, cannot get into it. From Pasco coming on down, you're going to be blocked there at State Road 54, right there at the county line. And on over the bridges, you cannot head westbound. This is a live look right here. The Tampa side of the Courtney Campbell Causeway. Courtney Campbell westbound, the Gandy westbound are both shut down to traffic right now, and the Skyway in both directions is also shut down right now. Still waiting on that storm surge to come on in, as Greg was talking about. And we are in live drive right here. Kirsten, tell me again. We're in Seminole Heights right here. This is our live drive. You can see the wet pavement there, a couple of what looks like to be puddles. But listen, it is still dark, and while there is a curfew, a tree down is here, is what I'm being told. Is we're working to steady our camera and get some lights on it so we can show you what's going on. Incredibly, dangerous to be out. in the dark right here because you don't know what you're going to come up upon. Luckily, our crews are driving very slowly, and we have been following police officer reports of where they are getting these reports of downed trees right now. So anyway, just keep in mind right now, again, as we've been reiterating, that there is still a curfew and the storm surge rather is still to come here in the Bay Area, and we're expecting to possibly see some of that come on up over some of the low-lying bridges. James?
Hey, Lindsay, we do want to mention, too, that even with those curfews in place, that means you can't be on the road. Some people have emailed us and said, does it mean we can't go outside? No. Authorities say you can go outside at daylight and check your own property. They just don't want people on the roads. They don't want anybody on the roads right now for your safety. And, of course, you know, first responders, they're out clearing the roads. So you can go out, you can check your property, make sure that everything's okay. Just don't get on the roads.
And Lindsay did an excellent job of explaining that. Right now, we want to go out to ABC Action News reporter Nick Saletti, who is with us in Hillsborough County.
Yeah, we're getting some reports of standing water. We can see it right there behind you.
Absolutely, guys. So we just left the Hillsborough Emergency Operations Center. We were out looking for damage, and honestly, we did not have to go very far. We're probably less than half a mile away from the center here on Columbus and 301, right on these train tracks. And this is what we saw. We see this standing water here. And when we pulled up, some deputies also pulled up at the same time. They were walking through this and said at the deepest points, it's probably about a foot deep, as a matter of fact. And when I was speaking to those deputies, they said that this was the first thing that they have been able to respond to, because as we've been reporting throughout this storm, they were not able to go out and respond to any emergency calls until those winds died down a little bit. And as a matter of fact, that deputy told me he was hoping to drive more that way because he just wanted to check on his wife and the rest of his family. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that. He has to find another way around here. But this is just one of the many signs that Hurricane Irma did, in fact, come by here. We're also seeing plenty of debris from trees on the ground here. I'm not sure if you can see this, but we're seeing a lot of this. And this is just the first thing that we came upon after leaving that emergency operations center. So we're going to continue to drive around here in Hillsborough County because we're getting even more reports of damages, guys.
Hey, Nick, it looks like you still have power in that area. Is that the case?
Yeah, it looks like we do, because we see that the lights are on here behind me on these railroad tracks. And we asked the Emergency Operations Center folks, how many people exactly are out of power right now? And they told us they're still trying to figure that out. As I mentioned, they still have so many calls to respond to because they are literally just getting out the door right now. Those two deputies told me this was the first thing that they were able to respond to. And again, this is less than half a mile away from that center. So you can just imagine the laundry list of things that our first responders have to go to this morning.
Nick, again, Nick Saletti in Hillsborough County for us this morning in front of that standing water there. Nick, can you describe to many of us, as we heard from our weather center about that path and how it kind of kept Hillsborough County on the west side of the storm. Describe to us the kind of conditions that you saw there throughout the evening.
Sure. So we saw some heavy rain, we saw some winds, but as you mentioned, because it started to veer a little bit more inland, Hillsborough County, at least where we were, got spared in many ways. And don't get me wrong, there will be some damage and there will be a lot of things that people need to clean up around their homes and around their communities. We didn't get off scot-free, but compared to some of our other counties here in the Bay Area, a lot of people would say that we were spared, but that wasn't exactly what we anticipated, because last night they told us that we were going to have to spend the night inside the Emergency Operations Center. So that's what I did. That's what my photographer Danny Bavaro also did. A lot of other folks in the community spending the night inside because they wanted to make sure that we were safe. But at about 2 o'clock this morning, they held a briefing and told us, hey, it looks like we're going to be able to open these doors a little sooner, get our deputies out there sooner, get our first responders out there sooner, which we all know is good news, because I'm sure so many people watching are saying, hey, I have a tree down in my neighborhood, or there's a power line down, things like that we know are dangerous and that we know our first responders have to get to. But of course, as we've covered, they had to keep themselves safe. So that's why they had to wait until those winds died down, until they were out here trying to assess what the damages were.
All right. Hey, Nick, right now we're looking at our live drive. Our Matt Brown is driving through the Seminole Heights area in Hillsborough County. We're seeing limbs down. We're seeing standing water on the road. You know, lot of tree limbs down in this area right now. He's trying to just drive through the neighborhood and see what kind of damage reports he can see. A fence you see right there knocked over, and you just have to believe that in the light of day, we're going to find so much more damage. That wind was just so powerful. It was so strong. So this is only what he's seeing on this one little street there. Expect it to be.
Sure, and that's sort of the gift that the sunlight gives us, that daylight gives us. It gives us that perspective to really assess what the damage is, because when you're inside a shelter, inside your home, inside whatever the safe place was that you were, it's hard to actually tell what happened. So from our vantage point inside and from the vantage point of the emergency operations folks, for the most part, things went okay, but that doesn't mean that, like you mentioned, we're not going to see those down tree limbs, maybe even down trees in some cases, those down power lines, standing water on the roadway like I'm standing in front of right now. They're saying that we are definitely going to see things like that, so we have to expect it. But compared to some of our other counties here in the Bay Area, they're thankful that things, so far from what they can tell right now, weren't a whole lot worse, because as we know, they really could have been.
All right, Nick Saletti for us in Hillsborough County. Nick, thanks so much for the update. Our live drive camera at DA, the things that we've seen, we'll describe to viewers. We've seen a fence down. We've seen
it's just partially down.
Partially down.
Just
We've seen
some
some
leaning
debris in roadways. I think I've seen
lots of debris, lots of tree limbs in the road, lots of ponding on the road. Nick Saletti, though, right there, right before you were going over railroad tracks, just water. You could tell it was deep, but just not how deep. But you know, I mean, it was a pretty big area that was covered with water.
Nick using some good verbiage, though, you know, with what he experienced in Hillsborough County, the feeling of being spared with what they were expecting, and still, you know, some rough conditions there, but certainly, as he said, not like they got off scot-free,
yeah,
but it could have been a lot worse.
How bad the damage is once we get to sunrise.
We
want
do
to check
have,
in, of course, with Sarah Hollenbeck.
We do have Sarah Hollenbeck, and speaking of damage, she is live in St. Petersburg for us. The impact from Hurricane Irma there really starting to come to light, at least for you in one area. Sarah, tell us what you're seeing.
Well, now we're on Grand Canal Boulevard Northeast. This is in Venetian Isles in St. Pete, and I want to show you, just check out how freaking big this tree is. This is the trunk right here. I mean, if I could describe this, this is probably 50 feet. And this is just a humongous tree. And you can see down here at the actual trunk of this tree, just take a look at this person's yard. I mean, this is taking up probably about half of their yard here, and that whole tree just toppled over. And you can see right here that this is the trunk of the tree, and I can't quite wrap my arms around this tree. So that's how big it was, and that just gives you an idea of how strong the wind must have been to blow this enormous tree over. And it does look like it's in really good health. The branches and everything are, you know, flexible. So I don't think it was a bad tree. It's hard to tell at first glance, but definitely just that huge trunk back here showing just massive. Look at this. If I stand up next to this, this is way higher than I am. So I'm about 5'7", so this is at least 7 foot tall from this little area here that toppled over. So this is some of the damage that we're seeing: down power lines, trees that look like this, and also, of course, some localized flooding here in St. Pete near the downtown area. Reporting live in downtown St. Pete, Sarah Hollenbeck, ABC Action News.
Sarah, of course, we're just looking at that just from the video there, but it looks like part of the sidewalk was actually pulled up with that tree, with the base of the tree. Is that right? Is that what it is? Is that what we're seeing?
Well, it's hard to see because it's so dark, but this is actually somebody's yard. Jordan, if you could. So this is their house right here, and then this is the side of their yard. So they've got kind of like a really nice brick pavers over here, and then this is just the actual side of their yard. But geez, that tree is huge. You can see the roots right there. I mean, this must have been a pretty old tree.
It looks like it
it did. Thank God it fell towards the street. Yeah, absolutely. Because the house is over here. I mean, if it would have toppled this way, had the winds been blowing that way, this definitely would have hit their house and caused a ton of damage. But luckily, it fell the other way towards the street and is now just blocking the roadway instead of cutting off, their house. It's a very scary situation. And I'm sure these people are obviously not here. They evacuated. This is zone A. So I'm sure when they come back, they're going to say, oh my goodness, we dodged a bullet. That didn't hit our house. That fell towards the street.
What about power in that area? Did that tree take down power lines as well?
Yeah, this one did not hit a power line, but we've seen so many others that did. So there's no power here. It is pitch dark. There's really and since these people evacuated, they don't have any lights on their homes. There's really no lights whatsoever other than our little camera light that we've got out here. That's pretty much all we've got. But man, it is crazy to look at that tree and just know that those winds toppled it over.
Yeah, you guys be careful out there. For people who are listening to us right now on our simulcast with our courtesy of our radio partners, Sarah Hollenbeck is in St. Petersburg,
downtown St.
with a huge tree that just toppled over, root system and all, but it just barely missed a house. She said that house is in zone A, so the family evacuated. The place is completely dark out there, but that huge tree looks like a huge oak tree that just uprooted. The whole root system is exposed right now, and that tree is laying in the street.
Yeah, a healthy looking tree too, Dia. So, I mean, it takes
Roots just
a
got
lot
saturated, I guess, and then with that wind.
That's right. Powerful enough winds to do that. Guys, are we all set to go to Citrus County next year? Okay, we've got Jared Holbrook standing by, joining us live there. Dia, we spoke with Jared before. He's with the owner of an assisted living facility.
Yeah, the roof there was leaking. Jared, has it gotten any worse?
Well, it hasn't gotten any better, I can tell you that. Now, we're inside the Crown Court Assisted Living Facility in downtown Inverness, and there's about 40 residents here. Take a look at what they're dealing with. I'm in the dining area, okay, and I've got about 15 buckets in this room, and it's a steady drip. It sounds like a water fountain going off in here because it's just, look at this. It's all full, and it's just a steady drip that just keeps on coming down. Look at this one here. Look, a steady flow of water just coming down. And this is what the owner of the facility has been battling all morning. Now, I can tell you, he just recently redid the roof, and now this. They renovated also like the carpets that you're seeing right now. All of this has just been recently redone, and now they're dealing with this. Let's come on this way. I'll show you what's going on. The good news is, notice the lights. They have power. A block from here, no power. So it's very good that they have power. They have a safety plan in place. Look, more buckets, guys. You see this bucket filling up, this trash can. Water just dripping from the ceiling. Now, the good news is this is the front half of the building. The residents are in the back side of the building. And the residents, well, they're safe. They don't have the issues of water dripping in their room, so that's the good news. It seems to be more towards the front of the building. This building was built back in the 1800s and actually moved here to this location, several years ago. This is a piece of the awning on the side of the house, or the facility, excuse me. But if you'll notice, it just ripped right off from the winds earlier. Winds were, heavier, or at least at its high point around 11:30 last night. They've been dying down, but it looks like it's picked up since my last live shot here this morning. We're getting the steady rain that you've been seeing from just about everybody. Notice that the rain's just coming right down the street. I'll step out here so you can kind of see. The winds aren't really that drastic out here, okay? We're probably looking at, 10 to 15 miles an hour. It doesn't seem, there's a few gusts that come by, but really not that bad. They seem to be dying down, so that's the good news. But again, this side of the street has power. See that traffic light over there? Notice the traffic light right over here. Okay. Power, 1 block away, literally across that street, no power. The government center building is so dark you can't see right now, but is literally right across the street. No power whatsoever. Now take a look over here. Some shops right over here. They have power. So it seems to be real spotty right now as to who's got power and who doesn't. But the good news is there's power here, and that seems to keep some of the residents here a little more calm, feeling a little more safe. They're already getting a little nervous when they start seeing water coming from the ceiling. So to have that power on, just, gives them a feeling of comfort. There's a safety plan in place. They've gone over evacuation plans. The owner of this facility has met with the residents. They've gone over some of the issues they may have to encounter. As of right now, everything seems to be okay, other than the water dripping from the ceiling. But thankfully, it's not in the residents' rooms, and it seems to be more towards the front of the building. And again, we just recently redid the roofs, so the people who did the roof obviously have some, they're going to have to answer some questions, that's for sure. But you can see the downpour of the water right over here. Okay, this is a flat roof on the front side of the building, so all that water is accumulating up there, and it's just coming right off the side. But again, guys, as far as winds, it almost seems to be dying down, which is a good sign for folks out here. Back to you.
Hey, Jared, you rode out the storm there. We've got some people who don't have power right now. You guys do have power. They're listening on radio through our radio partners. Can you describe what it was like riding out the storm in that facility, just in detail? Describe the winds, how bad it got. Did you ever lose power at one point?
We never really lost power at all. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, our room, they let us stay here, which was great, and we're very grateful for that. We stayed in the front half of the building where some of the leaks were happening, so we did get some leaks in our room, so we were constantly moving buckets around. There were about 6 leaks from the ceiling, but again, we're on the front half, not the back half where the residents are, so that's good. Other than hearing dripping buckets and some howling winds throughout the night, it really wasn't that bad considering what folks down in Pinellas County, Hillsborough County were experiencing earlier, that evening.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're so fortunate. Even though we can hear the rain picking up again, it's gotten worse since the last time we checked in with you about maybe a half hour or so ago. It was raining lightly. We could see just the raindrops dripping into the assisted living facility, but now it seems like it's a real downpour.
Yeah, it's coming down. I mean, it's obviously a lot harder here because we're right by the flat roof, so it's just running right off of the roof, so it looks like it's coming down harder right here. But if you come over here, it's still coming down, obviously, but it's not as bad as right over there in that little section next to the flat roof. But you can see the palm trees just moving along. Again, the winds are definitely dying down. And we're hoping the rain stops because that'll hopefully stop the water from dripping down on the ceiling. But, they do have a plan in place, and the residents overall are safe.
That's the good news.
Jared Holbrook for us at a Citrus County Assisted Living Facility. Most importantly, everybody's safe.
Yeah. We also want to remind you again, we've been talking about our radio partners. For those of you who have lost power and you cannot get to our ABC Action News mobile app, we want you to go old school. Pull out the radio. Hopefully you got one there and it has batteries in it. You can listen to us. We will paint pictures with our words, tell you what's going on. We'll describe in great detail what you would be seeing. Our radio partners are 99.5 WQIK, Q105, Wild 94.1, B98.7, and 92.5 Maxima. They are simulcasting our newscast right now. And again, we're keeping you up to date. So if you've lost power, grab a radio. Hopefully you can find it. Hopefully it has batteries in it. And then that way you can stay safe, and we'll keep you up to date on what's going on. Also let you know when it's safe to try to get back outside as well.
Okay, we've got Greg D standing by. We also have Wendy Lane. Guys, do you want to go to Greg or do you want to go to Wendy? Okay, we've got Wendy Lane in Sarasota County. This is our first check with Sarasota County here in a couple of hours. Wendy, tell us how things are there.
Yeah, James, Dia, the rain actually stopped a little bit ago, and now, as you can see, it's picked up again. The winds have picked up again. So some people at the hotel earlier, we lost power at 6 p.m. Overnight, and they were saying, hey, is it okay? Can we go home now? Is it over? Apparently it's not over, and that curfew is still in place in Manatee County, which is very close to where we are right now. Sarasota, we're in Sarasota County, but Manatee County is right by us. Sarasota County doesn't have a curfew, but they do have a lot of trees down, and that's the reason that people should not be driving around. Take a look at this, guys. Look at this damage we just ran into. This is on Tamiami and 24th Street. An entire huge tree right in the middle of the road out here. This whole thing, this huge trunk you can see, completely crashed down in the middle of the road because of those winds that we've been having. I mean, all day yesterday, I should say. Getting confused on what day it is now. We're still having those winds right now. But you can see why it's dangerous to be, driving around out here. Even though there isn't that curfew in Sarasota County, it is not a good idea to be driving around because there's more than 100,000 people, 159,000 last time I checked, people out of power in Sarasota County. There are no street lights. There's no way to see these things in the middle of the road until you drive right up on them like we did with this giant tree that's right in the middle of the road. So we're out here looking for damages, kind of trying to let you guys know what's going on at home. And if you are listening on the radio, because we do know a lot of people have lost power. There's a lot of destruction out here. This is just a few blocks from our hotel, so we didn't have to drive far to find this. We're going to be out here for the rest of the morning looking for other places that have seen damage just like this.
Hey, Wendy, is that a main thoroughfare? Let me paint the scene first for people who are listening on the radio. This tree is humongous. It seems like all of the branches are basically covering that road. You can't get around it. Is that a main thoroughfare?
This is Tamiami. So this is definitely, there is 4 lanes to this road. So this, I'm sorry, I'm really bad with directions, especially in the dark. But
yeah, Greg said this is Highway 41, so we're talking a main thoroughfare.
Yes, so this is covering an entire section of the road here, and just like you said, this is a huge tree. We've also heard that there's light poles completely knocked down. We're going to be searching for those this morning. But again, these are big things lying on the road. So this is just us trekking out a few blocks from our hotel. Who knows what kind of damage we'll see once daylight comes, but this is what we ran into so far. Like I said, we'll be checking out this stuff for the rest of the morning.
And it looks like that rain is still blowing sideways where you are too. Can you describe, are the winds still picking up there?
They are. It's so funny because for a little while, and I don't know if you guys are experiencing this up in Tampa, there were no winds and no rain because that first part of the hurricane had gone past us. So, that eye had kind of broken up, and there was a little bit of a clearing, even though the gusts were still there, but not the rain. Now this rain has picked back up big time. And then, of course, you can see these gusts are no joke either. So definitely a good idea to just keep in your homes for a while still, because there's still a lot of things going on out here.
Wendy, James Tully here. When you were moving locations around there in Sarasota County, because this is the first time we've checked in with you in a couple of hours here, give us a sense of some of the things maybe you saw, debris on roadways, maybe some limbs, things like that. Give us an idea, paint a picture for us.
Yeah, James. So we didn't make it out too far. We just kind of left our hotel, but just leaving our hotel, like I said, broken lights, like just pieces of things lying around the roads. Now, one thing that we haven't seen, which I think is a good sign, is pieces of homes, like siding, roofs, insulation. I know when there's a tornado or something like that, you'll start seeing things like that around on the streets. So not seeing something like that so far is a good sign for those who are in shelters right now, worried about what their homes may look like. That's a good sign. But again, that wind has the power to knock down a tree this big. Let's see some other things that we saw, just a lot of debris in the road. Not anything, we stopped at the first thing that we ran into that was this big. So we're going to spend the rest of the morning, we're going to keep moving on from here, seeing what we find out there in Sarasota County.
Yeah, as expected. When you guys stay safe out there, okay? We'll talk to you again soon. We do want to check in with Greg to find out, how much longer we have. People, of course, wondering, how much longer do we have to deal with this?
Yeah.
They're still dealing with those high winds.
Let me add something real quick, Greg. I'm getting messages from a lot of folks out there watching saying, okay, well, the wind and rain has stopped in my place, but we want to caution, this, just because you see the radar passing you, that does not mean we're out of the woods yet.
Yeah, it's actually building back into Tampa. We're getting the backside now. So this is not the time to be wandering around seeing what's going on. We get reports of people doing that in Seminole Heights. Do not do that. And actually, Tampa Heights, Seminole Heights, that whole area along the Hillsborough River heading up towards Sulphur Springs. These are old neighborhoods in Tampa that have large tree overgrowths. These oaks are huge. They haven't been touched by a big storm in a long time, and there's going to be lots of tree damage. And that's where we're going to see a lot of branches falling. Some of those branches may not have made it down to the ground yet, and any wind gusts now, as the backside of the storm moves in, could down additional branches. This is our live drive. We're driving through Seminole Heights right now, and you see right there lots of large branches. I expect to see a lot more of this. This is just a little taste. This is one of the more susceptible areas of Tampa to wind damage because of the tree cover. There is a curfew in place. That means it is technically illegal for you to be out there wandering the streets. And that is for your safety and also for the safety of our first responders, our crews, to get out there, assess the damage, and start making the cleanup preps and repairs that need to be made before you and I can hit the roads. And that's why the curfew is in place. It's to get to the roads and make sure that your way home or your way back to wherever you came from is safe. And the crews need some time to do that. They're going to need at least today, much of the afternoon, to get this cleared up. You see, this is going to be a picture in Seminole Heights that we're going to see on every single block. Tampa Heights, Seminole Heights, out there towards Riverview Heights, I believe it is, or Riverview Heights, out there along the Hillsborough River, heading up into Sulphur Springs. The west bank of the river as well, heading out north out of there, Temple Terrace. These are all going to be portions of the Hillsborough River. These are old growth trees that haven't been touched in a long time. Many of them, we love the trees out there covering your yard, but these large branches are going to be falling all over the place. Surprised I'm not seeing more trees down. That's actually good news. I'm seeing a lot of branches down on our live drive in Seminole Heights. We haven't come across a full tree yet. Maybe that is good news for this part of Tampa. Fence damage, I see that fence a little bit skewed there on the left-hand side, probably from some wind as well. Carports are fine. Look at that. That's good news. Carports, one of the first things to go during strong winds, so you got to figure the winds there weren't incredibly intense, as a carport could easily be ripped up from the ground with 70-mile-an-hour winds. You see cars there, parked folks just kind of waiting out the storm. Many of them, even in that part of town, decided to board up their homes because of flying debris. There's a little piece of fence right there. Like, that's a metal fence. And that was ripped out by those strong winds as Irma moved by. Generally, in this area, it seems like winds were probably max gusting maybe 60 to 70 miles an hour in max gusts. And those gusts are going to be similar to thunderstorm wind gusts, where one part of the neighborhood gets hit hard really bad, and then just a few blocks away, it's not as bad. And that's the kind of damage we're going to see. And that's what seems to be the case. The reports that we're getting around Metro Tampa, so central western Hillsborough County, back over towards Pinellas, St. Pete, Clearwater. Lots of power outages and sporadic power outages. One part of the neighborhood is out, the other one is not. That's likely tree damage, branch damage, power line damage. There you see more tree branches down. This is Seminole Heights, north of downtown Tampa. Lots of branches. And this is why you don't want to get, look at this. I mean, this is why you've got to stay inside. Our live drive can't even get through that road because of tree branches in the road. So it's very hard to travel. It's not safe to travel. And we certainly don't want to see everybody on the roads. There are roadblocks everywhere because of downed trees and power lines. This could be a real mess. And when we clog up the roads, we're not going to let the crews that need to be out there to put up power lines, to restore safety, to remove some of those trees. We're not going to give them the space they need to get out there. So you knew this was coming. We knew the timing on this. We said through Monday, you've got to stay inside. And this is how this needs to play out. Just be very patient. I know you're probably just curious, anxious. We are too. We've got homes that we have not seen, just like you. We've spent the night here at the station, and we too are anxious about what our neighborhoods and our families have left after the storm and what's going on in our backyards, but we've got to make sure that we give crews the time to get out there. All right, let's go to the weather maps, and let's talk about something positive here, and those are the wind speed forecast for the next several hours. And what you see here is, yes, sustained winds 40 to 50 miles an hour in Tampa, slowly, actually quickly this morning, dying down by 7, 8 o'clock. It will remain breezy throughout the afternoon, so still be careful. Even after the curfew is lifted at 3, it may be extended. We don't know what's going to happen with that curfew. It's until 3 now. That's important to remember, too. If you are able to get out there after 3 o'clock, still be very cognizant of the fact that there are going to be some loose branches that could continue to fall in those gusty winds throughout the afternoon. In Lakeland, you're on the stronger side of the storm. It is still windy. We're still getting wind gusts to 50 miles an hour or more in Polk County. The winds will start to back down by 9 o'clock, and then in the afternoon, a breezy, windy day, but the winds will be lower. In St. Pete, so I know some of you are listening on the radio. Strongest winds now by 7, 8, especially 9 o'clock in the morning. Your wind speeds drop below 40 miles an hour, and they basically stay 25 to 30 in those gusts throughout the rest of the afternoon. So you've got to wait in St. Pete till about 8, 9 o'clock this morning. If you're listening on the radio and you haven't been streaming us because you're saving battery power, I've actually tweeted all these wind forecasts for the cities I just talked about and more on my Twitter and Instagram feeds. That is a faster, more power efficient way to get that information. So you can pull up my Twitter feed, you can pull up my Instagram feed, my Facebook pages, and you can go in there and actually take a quick look at the forecast and then turn your phone off so that you're conserving your phone power in case you're not going to be able to charge it for the rest of the day and you still want to get in touch with friends and family. By the way, the best way to communicate is texting. That by far is going to use the least power possible on your phone. So, and it's also going to allow the phone lines to remain free in case there are some phone outages or maybe reductions in service in the area. That's going to help information move across those cell towers a lot faster. Still looking at hurricane warnings, another way to show you that we are not out of the woods, folks, all the way down from Charlotte County over towards Lee County and Sarasota County north. Everyone that can hear my voice is under a hurricane warning still from the National Weather Service. Tropical storm warnings now up for South Florida. That is reassuring, as those mean lighter winds, and I do expect at some point today that maybe even later this morning we will be taken out of those hurricane warnings, but not yet. Some things that we're looking at now this morning. The storm surge along the Gulf Coast. Now that the winds are onshore from Pasco County south, and we're into high tide right now, Clearwater, Sarasota, St. Pete, we're going to be watching the Gulf of Mexico. Another reason to stay inside. Highest winds are now to our north. By far the highest wind core, those 90 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts, have shifted into central and north Florida. Ocala to Lake City. They're getting it now heading up towards I-10. Irma is moving away faster. It has been speeding up. That's something we talked about yesterday when the turn was complete, and now it's going to accelerate. So this thing is going to move out faster than it took for it to move in. Okay, the backside of the storm is going to blow by faster than the front side. So we're going to get out of this, but it's still hours. This is not a thunderstorm or a tornado where it goes through in a few minutes or an hour. This is still another 6, 7, 8, 9 hours of some strong winds for some of you, at least gusting towards tropical storm strength. In Clearwater, the high tide 311, so we're past high tide right now. The tide's going to try to go out, but an onshore flow will likely keep the Gulf high. In St. Pete, your high tide is coming up at 5:24 this morning. So if there's going to be significant surge in St. Pete, Southern Pinellas, that's going to be in about an hour and a half. So we still have a ways to go here. So the water levels could continue to rise, especially now that in St. Pete, the onshore winds will be increasing. Very important. The winds are going to be increasing, and we're heading to high tide. It's already raining in Southern Pinellas County again. That's the backside of the storm. In Sarasota, your high tide is happening right now. So if there is a surge, you've been in an onshore flow for several hours, we could be seeing some of those highest levels now. Another reason, Sarasota County, you've got to stay inside, especially if you're anywhere near the water. For some reason, you did not heed those evacuation orders. I've got the planner on screen for the rest of the day right now. I'm also going to tweet it after this weather update and put it on Instagram. Here's what it shows. At 7 a.m., rain chances up to 60%. This is for Tampa. By 11 a.m., the rain chances down to 50%. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, your rain chances down to only 20%, scattered showers. And the temperature today should stay in the upper 70s until the rain quits. When the rain quits, we may briefly reach the low 80s. This is also going to be the coolest of the next several days. And that's important for those of you who are right now at home without power. Today is by far going to be the best in terms of comfort, as we're going to return to Florida weather here tomorrow and into Wednesday and Thursday. As Irma goes away, our temperatures are going to shoot back up to the upper 80s to around 90. Wind gusts will also diminish as we go through the afternoon. By 3:30, everyone from Tampa south gusting below 50 miles an hour. Now, north of Tampa at 3:30, that includes Pasco, Hernando, Citrus County, maybe even northern Polk, you could see some gusts close to 50. But by this evening, those gusts will continue to drop, and I think by 7 and 8 o'clock, most places in the Bay Area will be gusting to maybe the upper 30s to around 40 miles an hour. Irma right now is a Category 1 hurricane still. 85-mile-an-hour winds. Pressure has continued to shoot up quickly, and it's moving north-northwest at 15. That's almost double the speed that it was moving yesterday. At least at one point yesterday, it was moving at 6, so it's almost triple the speed that it was moving early yesterday morning. It has sped up on its track, though we are still looking at a Category 1 hurricane, over the center of which is near western or eastern Pasco County between Dade City and La Cucha. It's basically heading up towards Hernando County this morning. The heaviest weather in terms of rain and wind has lifted to the north and east of our area. Daytona Beach up to St. Augustine. They're getting slammed right now. Tornado warnings around Jacksonville. That nasty feeder band that gave us those tornado warnings, Polk, Hardy County yesterday, it's now all the way up towards North Florida and South Georgia. It's swinging up from Jacksonville up through Brunswick, Georgia, and up towards Savannah, Hilton Head, Beaufort, and Charleston. The track that the storm took made that landfall near Marco Island. It headed right across portions of Collier, Lee, and Charlotte counties, went right down the middle of DeSoto County and Hardy County. Basically, I believe that's Highway 19 there in those counties, or 17. I can't remember off the top of my head here. Went over southwestern Polk County, slid right to the west of Lakeland, passing over Plant City in Hillsborough County, up towards Thanoto-Sassa, and the latest position somewhere near Zephyr Hills as it continues to accelerate towards the north. So it took that inland track as it wobbled over Key West. Through most of our area, this storm was a Category 2 hurricane as it was moving through. And that's why we're seeing a lot of tree and branch damage versus roof damage, which would have been more likely with Category 3 winds. But if we do have any of that stronger damage, it's going to be to the east of the track. And so we're going to be looking for reports, and we're not hearing much right now from Polk, Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands counties. I think the fact that we're not hearing a lot is telling that it's difficult for them to maybe get information out to us, or maybe widespread power outages, maybe trees out in the roads. We'll have to see exactly how strong those winds are. But we definitely saw wind gusts in excess of 80 and 85 miles an hour just to the east of Lakeland in Polk and maybe even northern Highlands County as that part of the storm moved north through our area. By the way, that same area moved right through Orlando as well. So we'll be watching, see how they took the brunt of that storm as well. Guys, we'll have another update coming up in a few minutes.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Greg was mentioning, texting your friends and your family to let them know you're okay. I just checked Facebook. I'm checking neighbors to see if we still have power. That's also another way that you can find out what's going on, making sure that everybody's okay.
Yeah, texting doesn't use as much bandwidth, and like Greg said, it uses less power on the phone. It's a really good option right now. Of course, you probably didn't need me to tell you that. We're going to go back to Citrus County. We have Jared Holbrook there for us.
Yeah, and he's been talking with the owner of an assisted living facility there. They're seeing just some really bad roof damage.
Well, we're outside the Crown Court Assisted Living Facility, and that's downtown Inverness right over here. But before I go inside and show you what they're battling indoors, just take a look at the conditions out here. Good news, we're still getting rain, but take a look at the tree right over here. Not much wind at all. We get a few gusts coming through every now and then, but really it's not all that significant, which is a good thing. But we're still getting some rain. If you'll notice across the street, no power. You see that light pole right there? Not on. Literally on this side of the street, we have power. So that's a very good thing, especially for the residents inside this assisted living facility. You can see the street light over here is working, but on the other side of the street, nothing. Right over here, take a look. Part of the issue is this roof is flat. A lot of water is accumulating on top of this roof, okay? They just had the roof redone recently. However, they're experiencing some issues inside, and I'm going to take you inside and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Randy Wright, our photojournalist, is going to take it very carefully as we walk through because these floors can be a little wet. But take a look at this. This was the aluminum siding on the side of the roof here, and it just ripped off from the wind earlier tonight. Winds out here were probably most significant around 11:30 last night and have been dwindling down, minus a few gusts here and there. But this is the issue right here. Look at this, guys. Water just dripping into the buckets from the ceiling. We've got a garbage can full over here. You see pieces of sheetrock on the ground. And you see it's just got a steady drip. It's coming out. And right over here, take a look at this. This is the dining area. Okay, there's about 15 buckets. And look at this drip right here. Come on in here and get a look at this. I mean, it's just a steady drip. Take a look at my hand right here. You can really see it. It's just coming down, and it hasn't stopped for quite some time. Now, the good news is this is the front half of the building, okay? This is the dining area. The back half is where the residents are. They're not getting water in their rooms, so that's a good thing. But I want to take you over here. This is the owner right here, Carrie Jensen, who has been so gracious as to let us even stay here last night. And so we thank you for that. But you're obviously going through a lot right now.
Yeah, I'm getting a little weary. It's been a long night. As we spoke earlier, talking about the categories, we're just thankful that it dropped down to a Category 1 from what we were anticipating, which was a Category 4. It's damaging, but could have been much worse. And
you have a safety plan in position for your residents. You've gone over it with them. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a ritual here. We go over our evacuation plans and all the different scenarios that could happen. In case of an emergency like this, we have a bus to transport them to a reciprocal piece of property further north, east, and thank goodness we didn't have to use that evacuation. Even if we did, it wouldn't happen until after the storm. Everything's assessed, but we're pretty well set up for anything that happens, and our location is probably next to none because you're 2 blocks from the hospital, medical district. We've got everything available at our fingertips here. We're set up with ham radios, everything, anything that we might need.
And Carrie, you just recently renovated this place. Tell us a little bit about that. It's not just the roof either.
Yeah, thank goodness this isn't part of what would be detrimental to the residents. It's really just your common areas where I have flat roofs that we just completed a renovation on the property of all new carpets, all new subfloorings through the whole building. It's just a crying shame. I'll be in touch with my roofer tomorrow.
I'll bet you will.
As we were just discussing, and see what he is going to do about this. If not, I may be in touch with you.
Absolutely. And now this building was built in the 1800s and actually moved a couple of blocks over. Tell us about that.
It's a historic piece of property, well known previously as Crown Hotel, previously Orange Hotel, previously so on and so forth. Over the last 100 years, 1896, it was moved from Line Avenue down here in 1908. And a gentleman by the name of Larry LaFont has put this huge website together which explains the whole history under crownhotel.net. But for me to go through the whole history of this place would take forever.
And you converted it to an assisted living facility.
In 2004, me and my wife Brenda Jensen purchased the property. And
you got about 40 residents here, correct?
40 residents, and we're housing some additional people through this weather.
Including us, thank you.
Including, yes, to help them get through this because they were in some areas that they had to evacuate. Okay. And we've tripled, quadrupled the staff here for this period, and I appreciate the staff for coming in to help out. So,
and you've got, everybody, all hands on deck out here for, safety purposes as well.
Around the clock, and we're, thank goodness, coming towards the end of that. And like I said earlier, thank God, we didn't get the Cat 5 and 4s, and our thoughts and prayers are with those down in the islands and southern Florida here. We got lucky.
Well, we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you, Carrie. Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Now, guys, for those of you listening on the radio and can't really see this, 15 buckets. It's dropping steadily. It sounds like there's a water fountain going on in here. It really does. But this bucket's almost full. It's coming down steadily. Right over here, this is just a complete steady drip right here. Look at that. It's not even just drip, drip, drip. It's just a steady stream coming down. So that's what they're dealing with out here in Citrus County. Now, I do want to mention that Citrus County, has a curfew at least until 6 a.m. We're going to get with EOC. We're going to see if they're going to extend that or let folks, out and about. Back to you guys.
Yeah, your heart just breaks for the owner of that assisted living facility, knowing that he just spent all of that money and all of that time and effort having the place renovated, and then to see that happen. But the good news is they still have power. Everybody's okay, so we have to look at the blessing in this, and hopefully he has insurance, so he can, he can replace everything that was lost, but everybody is safe. So we have to keep that in the back of our minds. And I know he does. I know he is.
He does have insurance, so that's a good thing. Yeah, so things are good there. As far as the power goes, that's really, helping residents stay calm during this situation. Obviously, they get nervous when they start seeing some water coming from the ceiling. You've got some fragile residents that, need special care. Yeah, but they really do have a good safety plan in place. He's been meeting with the residents earlier, when they were up and talking to them, and that I think.
Yeah. Let me say this. I mean, this is, when you were talking to the owner of this facility, he said they were prepared for a Category 4 storm. If you would have told him 24 hours ago that you're going to still have power and a leaky roof, I think he would have taken it, Jared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if this is all, out of what could have been, he got out lucky, and I think he knows that. But definitely going to be in touch with his roofer, as you heard, and I definitely think they've got some questions to answer, needless to say.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
For that guy.
Love to be a fly on the wall during that conversation.
Does it seem like it's getting better, though, there, Jarrett?
The winds are definitely dying down. You're still getting some steady rain. It does seem to be coming down a little lighter, but the wind's going down, and as soon as the rain stops, obviously this will stop, and that'll help relieve some of the headaches out here. But they're doing the best they can right now.
Yeah, and again, that is the dining area. That's not anywhere near where the residents are. They're in a different part of that facility, right?
That's correct. This is the front half of the building, okay, so more of your common areas. This is the dining facility right here. There's a kitchen. Where we stayed was the front half of the building upstairs, so we actually had a few leaks in our room too. But again, the residents, they are not in the front half of the building. They're more towards the back, and they are not getting water in their rooms as of right now, which is a great thing.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. You take care. We'll check back in with you a little bit later on.
All right. Right now, we want to head to ABC Action News reporter Nick Saletti in Valrico.
Yeah, Nick, you're seeing some downed power lines out there.
We're starting to get a better idea of the damage that Hurricane Irma has left behind. Check this out. This is a street light that landed in this lady's front yard, and let's look at where it came from. There's a pole right here in her yard, and she says the wind got so strong at one point that it just flew off and landed right here on the ground. And just a few feet away from that, this massive tree. She says when it was standing, it was about 50 feet tall, but now you see it's on the ground here. An old tree, too. She said it's been here since 1929 when this house was built. We're here off Miller and State Route 60. We're going to walk this way. I want to show you what else happened here in her yard. There's lots of down branches, lots of leaves. She's going to have a lot of cleanup here. But look at this. As we go on to Miller here, this is what that tree did. It landed right on this power line here. She says, surprisingly, it did not knock out power for her or her neighbors. She's also very grateful this morning because she knows that if this tree would have fallen back the other way, it could have very easily fallen onto her house. She has a young daughter at home, so as I mentioned, she is just very, very grateful that that was not the case, and very fortunate that her power wasn't knocked out, too. Now, we just left the Emergency Operations Center here in Hillsborough County about a half an hour ago. Deputies really haven't had a chance to go out here and survey the damage because those winds have finally died down enough to let them go out and do their jobs and respond to these kinds of incidents. They were waiting for that because, of course, they have to keep themselves safe as they're keeping all of us safe. But we're going to continue to cruise around here in Hillsborough County to see if we find any more damage. But just a quick reminder, if you see down power lines, any kind of down wires, you know you should not touch them because they could be live. And, of course, you don't want to get electrocuted or injured or anything like that. So it's best just to stay away from them. Call the authorities, have them come out and deal with it professionally, guys.
And Nick, please stay safe out there. I've got 24 things going on in front of me, but I wanted to ask you, as you were moving locations there, what are you seeing as far as outages and maybe some other damage along the roadway? Just kind of describe it for us, for our viewers still on television that have power and others that are listening to us on our radio affiliates.
Sure. So what we've seen in a few areas, we have seen some standing water. I think mostly what we've seen, though, a lot of down branches, tree limbs, things like that. What we're looking at right now, you see a lot of leaves here on her driveway, a lot of branches. She was saying, too, she could really hear the thump on her roof last night as that wind was really knocking. She heard a lot of tree limbs fall into her roof. Thankfully, the roof is in good shape. All of her windows are good, too. But I would say, for the most part, what we've seen, a lot of just tree and other kind of debris out on the roadways and some standing water in some cases. This is the first down power line we've encountered, but in talking with my sources back at the Emergency Operations Center, they've gotten other reports of down power lines. So I won't be surprised if, as we're cruising this morning throughout the county, we see even more of these power lines and other trees that might be in the roadway as well.
Yeah, but Nick, you in that area, we see lights still on. So that's a good news. That's good. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so absolutely. And I even said that to the homeowner. Her name is Katia. And I said, the first thing I saw when the tree was on the power line, I said, oh, well, your lights are still on. It looks like it didn't impact your power. And she said, no, it didn't. They did not lose power at all on this block. So she was also pleasantly surprised that that was not the case for her. Unfortunately, we know so many other people, not just here in Hillsborough County in the Bay Area, but also across the state of Florida, did lose power. So she is one of the lucky ones. But in talking to TECO and other companies, we know that they are out right now trying to assess what the damage is and restore power as soon as they can to so many of these people. But yeah, she even admits it. She is one of the lucky ones that she did not lose power during Irma.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got this update from TECO. 294,424 people, 59% of their customers are without power. But you're right, Nick, those crews are out. They're working just as hard as they can to get that power back on. So if you do have power, you're one of the fortunate ones. You know, if you have power, you can get through this, you know.
Absolutely, and that's what she said too, and I have to say she had a great attitude, injured, because as I mentioned, this tree could have very easily fallen the other way, and her house isn't that far back, so it could have fallen on her house, and I mean, who knows what would have happened after that. So she says, yeah, I have my daughter, I have my electricity. She's doing pretty well this morning, and she's glad that her neighbors along this block are too. But she did the right thing. She called and reported it, and she knows not to go near that light that's back in her front yard or this too. She knows about what not to do around those down power lines, because again, you never know if they're live. The same thing about driving through standing water. You just don't know how deep it is. So that's the thing. You don't want to run into a situation where you're compromising your safety, the safety of your family, and maybe putting yourself in a really dangerous situation that could have been avoided if you would have just waited a little bit, called police, called whoever the authorities are to come out and handle it.
Nick Saletti for us in Hillsborough County. He's been surveying things there. Nick, thanks so much. We'll check back in with you soon. I would say, Dia, for the most part, Nick's been seeing some really, for the most part, encouraging things. I think daylight's going to be very telling for all of our reporters out there in our viewing area, but certainly good news to see a lot of a lot of lights on. I think at this point we would be expecting to see Nick in pitch black behind him.
Right. And
in
not
Hillsborough
only that,
County.
but to see the damage that he's seeing, that kind of damage was expected.
Right.
One thing that I took note of, he didn't mention seeing a whole lot of structural damage. So that's the good news. And it seems like the trees that we've seen from a couple of different reporters in the field falling away from homes into the street, not into homes. So yeah, so we're going to take heart in that.
We are going to take heart in that, and we're going to, of course, tell you that daylight is going to be very telling, and our reporters are going to stay out there surveying things, and that's going to be a very important time. If you're at home, stay hunkered down, because as our weather department has been saying for the last 12 hours now, you need to stay put. Even though that radar is moving past you, if you can see it, it is not over.
This isn't over.
We've
got more down lines in Sarasota County that we want to show you right now. The sheriff's office tweeting out this picture just a little while ago showing power lines down on the 2500 block of Mayaca Road. Deputies on scene spotted a car under a tree. There's no word right now on how the driver is doing. We are in touch. We will let you know. We know, it's bad to show you this picture, tell you that there was a driver in a car under a tree, and then not being able to tell you what happened. But we'll try to get information on this situation as soon as we can and let you know. We'll all keep this driver in our prayers, and hopefully that person is okay.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people in the Bay Area are still dealing with power outages. I just told you a little while ago, 294,424 people, TECO customers, are without power.
That's just TECO.
59%, yeah, that's just TECO. 4 million people at one point across the state didn't have power.
4 million across the state. And we're going to go over to Serena Fazan. Serena, I'll tell you this. I'm texting close friends and family in the area, and I've just had a couple tell me in the last half hour they just lost power. So, again, these numbers are going to continue to build.
Yes, they probably will continue to build. And I think it was so interesting what you and Dia were talking about. And Dia said 59% of TECO customers. Well, thanks to one of our great producers, Sean O'Reilly, he built this interactive map for us. And I want to show you this. This is TECO customers alone. And as you mentioned, close to 295,000 people without power. The red spots are the largest areas. And if we take a closer look, we can see there's many in Pinellas County. There's clusters right here near Tarpon Springs, near Dunedin. Sorry about that. Let me take that. And then it kind of bleeds into Lakeland. But let's go over here. This is Duke Energy. And the red highlighted areas, when I hit on the county, we can see how much power is out. For instance, in Pinellas County right now, you have nearly 300,000 people without power. That's also, and their customer service is 541,000. So more than half. Let's go over here. This is Polk County. 43,000 people at this point out of power. That's about half. Pasco County, we're talking about 52,000 people. I saw some interesting numbers out of Orlando, too. This is Orange County, 158,000 people without power. So people just have to be patient. But as James, you mentioned just a little while ago, at one time across the state, 4 million people without power. I've been so humbled to work in this market for a while and out with these crews. As soon as it's safe, they will go out there and try to restore power. Just people have to be patient. And if you do have power, Diaz, you've been talking about, oh my gosh, count your blessings.
Yeah,
seriously, especially with that, when Jared was talking about that facility, the assisted living facility, the fact that they have power, thank goodness, because they must be so scared as it is right now, So I would just urge people to be patient. We have great crews. They're constantly working. We have even reinforcements coming in. I checked with the governor's office yesterday, and he said they will get reinforcements here, but people just have to be patient. As you guys both mentioned, the storm isn't over. We have to wait and see. Once they can get out there, they will.
Once it's safe to assess the situation, then first respond. But we have reported several fire crews, fire departments, rescue personnel. They are already out in the streets. They're already assessing the damage. They're trying to get trees that are out of the road. They're trying to move those as well. So those crews are hard at work, and we know we can tell you to be patient. But, that's easier said than done.
I know.
Because everybody wants to get back home. We know that you're anxious to get back home. If you evacuated, if you're in a shelter, we know you want to get back home. But hang on, we do too. Hang on, we're doing the same thing. We're texting, trying to hear from our families too.
There are a lot of people in the station here that live in evacuation zones that would love to know what's going on back at their places. I'm one of them, but
Right.
I'm going to be patient.
But you're here. Well, speaking of that, and I'm glad you guys pointed that out, because on our website at abcactionnews.com, we have, if you're worried about power outages, or you need to report something, or if you have a tree down, you can just head to our website, and we have all that information right there for you.
We've got information posted on our website as well, Serena, where you can text. You know, because we've been telling you, don't call. That'll, you know, save your battery, save your cell phone battery if you've lost power. You can text certain numbers to TECO, to Duke Energy, and let them know if there's a down power line or you have power out. We've got that on our website right now. If you can get to it, abcactionnews.com, and you'll see all of that information. But hopefully everybody's okay. Hopefully you still have power.
And again, the numbers we're talking about there that Serena just brought up, at least from TECO, 290,000 plus without power. 59% with it. So perhaps an encouraging number there, the second part.
Exactly.
And fingers crossed that it's hours, days, not weeks, that people have to, you know, stay without power. But hopefully you're prepared to, you know, wait it out. Happening now, Sarasota County Sheriff, we are understanding here that they're breaking a window to get to people inside of it. A situation here where a downed tree has at least entrapped them, it looks like, in a vehicle. Guys, is that what I'm seeing?
Is that the car that we just told you about where the driver was trapped underneath it? So, yeah, Lindsay says yes. So they're working right now to try to get this driver out. Because, Lindsay, where is this happening? Do you know? It's in Sarasota County is what we're hearing. I can barely hear you over there, Lindsay. Lindsay says they're working right now to try to get that driver out. You can see those crews on scene. That is a huge tree. We have no idea when this happened, how long this has been there. Those crews are unseen right now. They're working hard to get the driver out. We're hearing just a driver, but we don't even know how many people are in this car. We're praying right now that whoever is in this car, that, you know, that they're safe. We're going to stay in touch with those crews. We'll let you know how this is going. This may take a little while, but we'll let you know how this is going.
The good news is they're there. They're there and they're assessing it. And as we cut away from this video, we're doing it because that's not live. Okay, that was recorded video. If it were live, we would probably stay there and watch that effort. But we are going to be monitoring that. We have a very hardworking crew in the newsroom monitoring that, bringing us things off the assignment as it just come in. So we'll get you back to that when we know the outcome there. You
know, and we're now beginning to get some damage reports throughout the Bay Area. We want to go back to Sarah Hollenbeck. She's in St. Pete at a hotel where the roof has collapsed there. Sarah?
Yeah, we're at Kenwood Inn in the Kenwood neighborhood in St. Pete, and this is the material that came off. It's a part of the roof here. Now let me show you the actual roof. You can see it's sagging right there, and we're told that several people had to evacuate from their hotel rooms, and they were really scared because they didn't have another place to go. They had already evacuated from their homes. Now they had to evacuate from their hotel rooms too. So there were quite a few hotel rooms that had to evacuate here. Luckily, it's not impacting the entire hotel, so that's good here at Kenwood Inn. The other thing that's a really big concern right here is this down power line. So we're going to keep our distance from that, but you can see that that's also another big concern, although it does look like, I believe this Kenwood Inn is operating off of a generator right now, and that's why they've got a little bit of power. But see that roof material? It's all over this parking lot. You can see it just scattered throughout this area. It's really just the force of that wind to take part of that roof with it. And it doesn't look like this part of the roof is really going to last either. That's definitely just hanging on there. If we get another big gust of wind, it could knock down this part of the roof too, and potentially cause even more people to have to evacuate, making a scary situation even scarier for a lot of people out here. We actually got this tip from one of our viewers on Facebook. They said they're really nervous and that they were sitting in their car, but when we got out here, they're actually not here any longer. Hopefully that means that they found another place to stay. But lots of families now scrambling to find something else here at the Kenwood Inn in St. Pete. Back to you guys.
That's just too bad, but it sounds like nobody injured, so that's the good news there. So, Sarah, we'll try to check back in with you. We see, is it still raining out there, Sarah? No? Okay, she's gone. We'll check back in with her. We'll check in with her a little bit later on. Right now, though, I think we want to go to Andrea Lyon in Polk County. Is that right? Are we going to Andrea?
We have Andrea. Yeah, we're going to go to Andrea. We're talking about signs, things she's seen here before we toss it to her. Signs bent, lanais ripped apart, and transformers blown. Let's hear from Andrea.
Good morning, guys. I think the worst part has passed us. We are in Polk County in Winter Haven at the Shergill Hotel, kind of near Legoland out here. The worst of it, I believe, was just a few hours ago. We started seeing flashes of light inside of our hotel rooms as the power was surging. The power is now out, and these winds out here are starting to actually die down from inside the hotel. It sounds pretty windy, but we are just getting these small gusts of wind. It may look a little bit more severe than it actually is out here right now, but we do have some word from, of course, our officials out there saying, you know, if it's calm in your area, don't go outside quite yet, just because you may be near that eye of the storm. As far as what we're seeing out here right now, we're just seeing a lot of wind, continuous rain. Out in the back of this hotel, I've seen a lot of down debris, a lot of stuff in the pool. At one point, I thought I saw a dangling street light in the trees. Not sure on that yet, but I definitely saw a light dangling up in the trees. We have reports from people out in Polk County with trees down, trees through their homes, and it may only be worse from there. So as far as here, though, it's not actually too bad. It's starting to get a little hot inside of our hotel without power, without our AC right now, but we'll keep showing you what this is like throughout the morning. Send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. We want to now check in Palm Harbor. We're hearing that winds knocked over a tree that caused that the roots actually tore up a water main.
That's what we're hearing.
It knocked over and then messed up a water main.
Well, for details on that, let's go to reporter Brian Callahan.
Lots of road debris here as we're driving around Palm Harbor. At one point we had to stop because of a feeder line across the road from one of the power poles. Otherwise, it's a lot of tree branches. This is a full tree that fell. Appears to be a pretty deeply rooted tree, as you can see here. It looks like it broke the water line as well. The wind's still fairly strong in this area. Off in the distance, we can hear what sounds like some of the boats banging together on the water, so still the potential for more damage on the backside of the storm. In Palm Harbor, Brian Callahan, ABC Action News.
Thank you, Brian. We want to check in with Greg D. He's also getting some reports of damage.
Yeah, guys, sporadically on Twitter, social media, we're getting some reports of damage. Now, this is the most significant I've seen. This is out of Polk County. This is the apartment building, I think, that I reported on earlier. I'm going to wait for my graphics here to load a little slow this morning. But there was significant damage to a building after a tree fell on that building over towards Lakeland. So here it is. Here's the damage. Now, I'm not sure what this building looked like before this tree fell on it, but you see a part of the building was at least sheared off. This was posted on the Telemundo Orlando Facebook page. This is where I got that report. And what you're seeing, and if you're listening to me, it looks like a large two-story building, and at least a portion of it has been taken out by a large tree that fell next to this building. If this is the same report that I relayed to you earlier, 8 people were displaced, no injuries reported in this, but the inside rooms from the second story down are exposed to the outside. So it looks like it took at least a side wall right out of this building. Luckily, I guess no one was in these rooms when this happened. But this is the heaviest damage I've seen so far. This is out of Lakeland. If we are going to find any more damage like this, it's going to be related to trees falling on buildings. The winds likely in most places not strong enough to cause damage like this, though if there was damage from wind exclusively, that's going to be over towards central and southern portions of Polk County, maybe eastern Polk County. Now, here's another one. This is out of Pasco County. This was just tweeted by the sheriff's office. They are seeing power poles that were snapped, and now we've got power lines hanging over the road. I do not know the information as far as what road this is and what location in Pasco County, but you can assume that areas of damage like this are scattered throughout the area. And that's why we've got curfews up, and that's why we're still reminding you and asking you to please stay inside well into the afternoon. Let folks get out there and at least remove these dangerous obstacles from our roads. There is a chance that these curfews are extended into the overnight, especially once we get out there and if folks find that our first responders that there's just too much to clean up today, don't be surprised if some places are placed under those curfews through the rest of the day and into tomorrow morning to give us additional time to clean up. If you spent the storm out there, you've got some reports you want to share with me, at Greg Do Weather, Twitter and Instagram. I'm also posting the images that you may be listening to me describe on Twitter and Facebook. So if you're listening with just my voice over the radio, you can always go to my social media channels and get visuals with your phone if you don't want to stream us, because streaming video on your phone, if you're saving battery power, is something that uses the most battery of all things you can do. Streaming video by far zaps your battery the fastest. Wind forecast in Tampa has 37-mile-an-hour winds by 7 a.m., 30-mile-an-hour winds by 9 a.m., then dropping below 30 miles an hour by 11 a.m., and then staying in that 20-mile-per-hour range right into the afternoon. In Lakeland, your wind forecast high right now, could still see gusts near 60, but by 7 a.m., 49, by 9 a.m., 30. That's a big drop. By 11 a.m., 26 miles per hour. Significant reduction in the winds as we go through the day. This is very good news. We're on the backside of this thing. We're coming out of it. The worst is now behind us. I think it's important to remember that. We've gone through the worst already. Things will get better in terms of the weather today. The roughest still this morning. St. Pete, your planner is on screen right now. 54-mile-an-hour wind gusts by 7 a.m. Those of you near the water will see higher gusts longer into the day. By 9 a.m., your wind's down to 33 miles an hour. And by 11 a.m., down to 30 miles an hour. By 1 p.m., 29 miles per hour. And by 1 p.m. and later, your winds in St. Pete stay below 30 miles an hour for the rest of the day. No changes in our hurricane warnings. There's still a hurricane in our area, folks, and that's why you want to remain in place. All our counties still under hurricane warnings. South Florida, south of the lake, basically under tropical storm warnings. The danger now is if there are power lines or tree branches that are loose up in the trees. These winds on the backside of Irma could knock those branches down, and they could fall on power lines that haven't fallen yet. You heard James say that there have been folks that have been losing power in the last 30 minutes. Guess what's happened in Tampa in the last 30 minutes? The wind has picked up again. The backside of the storm is moving through. Let me show you some live images right now of the Courtney Campbell. We're live out there. I believe the Courtney Campbell is still shut down, correct? I believe that is still the case. It is shut down. No, Lindsay? Yep. No in and out of Pinellas County in most places, as it is still too windy. There you see the live images. The camera is shaking. That's an FDOT camera, as the Clearwater Airport, at least in the last hour, was still reporting wind gusts above 60 miles an hour. That will subside, but more slowly in Pinellas because you're closer to the water, especially coastal communities. The latest on the storm, still an 85-mile-an-hour hurricane with 960 millibar pressure, moving north-northwest at 15. In the next 15 minutes, the Hurricane Center is going to provide us a new position and any new information that they can give us, probably an intensity update too. Irma is now going in between radar sites, so we know what the winds are doing at all times. We know where the position is. That's why we're able to track it so carefully right through the state. The heaviest thunderstorms and rain have now lifted towards the first coast. So that's going to be up there towards Daytona, over towards St. Augustine, and heading up towards Jacksonville. They're by far getting the strongest winds and rain after a track that started down in Marco Island. That was our first point of landfall on the peninsula, then Naples, and then heading right back into Hardy, DeSoto, Polk, then Hillsborough. It kind of wobbled into Hillsborough County, and then is now located probably out of Pasco now. I would say the center of circulation is probably now over Hernando County. That's where the new update's going to be. But as you look at the radar, what I'm showing folks, if you're listening, is that the oranges and the reds, the heaviest rains, are now well up Ocala and north towards Lake City. There is a break now across Hernando, Pasco, and northern Hillsborough County. That is temporary as the center of Irma lifts north. There is a backside to the storm that is moving through right now. We'll continue to see that. Tornado watches north of us this morning, up towards the Georgia coast, up towards South Carolina. And as we look at the radar close, we are starting to clear out in Crystal River of the front edge of the storm. We're not done with the storm. We're just getting out of the front edge of it. Brooksville, you're out of that front edge too. Dade City, Zephyr Hills, Lacucci over towards Newport Richey, Hudson, Wesley Chapel, Polk City in northern Polk County. That storm has lifted. Now, as we slide the radar south towards Tampa, There are now feeder bands on the backside of the storm. These are not as intense as the initial ones, but these could still produce wind gusts within them that could cause additional power outages. These are located, it looks like Clearwater south side of Clearwater now in Pinellas County, maybe the Largo area, shooting over towards Pinellas Park, right where 275 hits Pinellas County as you enter off the Howard Franklin toward Pinellas County. It is raining now on the western edge of the Howard Franklin. No one's on it. It is shut down. And that rain band is now lifting north. So South Tampa now also getting rain. Hey, Jason, can you walk over to the radar and zoom in for me on Pinellas and Hillsborough County? Let's get this rain band in full so we can get a look at this in some good detail. Or real close. Just put it, yeah, like right there, even closer. Yeah, get me right in it. There you go. Thank you. We've got Jason Adams working on the scene. You'll see him giving you updates here in the next few minutes as well. So there you see this rain band. It's slowly working its way up Dale Mabry. It's just about to 275 now. Channel side, you've got rain falling down at the Port Davis and Harbor Islands getting rain right now. Over towards, I believe that's called, is it Palmetto Beach? That little, the neighborhood there by the port, that's also getting the rain. And then down Causeway. Basically out towards the Brandon area, heading up towards the casino. There's I-4, and now this rain is going to make its way up to 75. So it's going to be Tampa Heights, Seminole Heights, Temple Terrace. It's going to work its way up through Sulphur Springs, eventually up to Carrollwood. It will also work its way up Pinellas County, and that's when the winds will start to increase as well. So Safety Harbor, Palm Harbor, East Lake, this is all headed your way. Oldsmar, the Tampa Road area, this is all going to work its way up the Veterans. It's already coming down with gusty winds on 275 south side of Pinellas County. On the backside of the storm, we're also still getting that onshore flow. So there is still some concern. And I haven't seen any reports on social media. A lot of folks along the beach are evacuated, so it's going to be hard to get good reports of how much surge we've actually seen. But we are going to see an increase in sea levels along Pinellas County, and now the water is getting pushed back into the bay. So we may start to see higher water levels around South Tampa, McDill, and then Hillsborough County. Folks, this water is getting pushed right into Apollo Beach, down towards Ruskin and Palmetto. Everyone to the west of 75, we're going to be watching the water now to see how strong these winds are and how much of that surge is going to come into Hillsborough County. We did drop the numbers, 2 to 4 feet for the Bay Area. 2 feet is going to cause minor flooding in most locations. Most places kind of built up for that, except maybe some of these barrier islands. But once you get up to 4 feet, that could start to flood more roads, maybe even some homes or businesses that are very close to the water. So that 4-foot level, 3 to 4 feet, is when we start to probably see some effects in the Bay Area. Downtown's about to get wet too. So don't think that just because it's quiet north side of Tampa now, New Tampa back over towards Carrollwood, Thenoto, Sasso, West Chase, that it's over. It's not. This back edge is working its way up. It's pouring in South Tampa now. It's a wind-driven rain. And then we've got additional rain bands. Look at this one coming in on Bradenton in Manatee County. It's oriented from basically Anna Maria and Longboat Key straight east, and then it kind of curves north towards Waimama in southeastern portions of Hillsborough County. The Lakewood Ranch area getting that rain band right now. It's not as heavy of a rain as it was as Irma was approaching you, but there are going to be some gusty winds. And then it just kind of stays solid with embedded heavier amounts from Bradenton all the way down the Manatee and Sarasota coast, all the way down towards Sarasota. Got more live pics for you. I believe that was the Gandy. That is the Gandy Bridge. So they are in the rain band that is now affecting South Tampa. So this is Gandy and Manhattan. So what you're seeing on the other side of me, right there in that box, is the back edge of Irma affecting South Tampa. So this is the South Tampa side of the Gandy, and you see rain's back falling. You can definitely tell there's wind back in that area too. Now, it's not going to be as strong as the initial hit, but there are going to be some wind gusts of 40, 55 miles an hour, certainly possible on the back edge of that storm, and that's all you need to cause additional tree branches to fall. The rain's filling in down towards South Venice, over towards Port Charlotte. This rain band's going to be with us for a duration of the morning. Another reason why you don't want to be out there wandering around, there's going to be a driving rain. This rain is going to come at you sideways in most cases, driven by those strong winds. Take a look at the current wind gust right now. We're picking up wind gusts now to 35 in St. Pete, near 50 in Sarasota with that stronger band, and that's going to work its way up the coast, folks. Even Tampa now gusting to 31, Apollo Beach 34. 50, the current wind gust in Zephyr Hills, so that could cause additional minor power outages in some areas. Bartow's gusting to 51. Haines City, a wind gust to 57 there, north side of Polk County, heading out I-4 towards Osceola and Orange County, still getting very strong winds all the way up into Orlando as well. In addition to that, we've also got flash flood warnings up to the east of the track. Another live view for you. This is going to be in Bradenton. What do you got down there? What are the current conditions? You're under that rain band. How have things changed here in the last hour or so?
Well, Greg, we just got out here literally within the past 15 minutes. We left the emergency operations center. I can tell you the rain, it is coming down pretty hard right now from when we left the operations center. Winds 45 miles per hour. We were told when we left by public safety officials there, and it really has been sporadic of some heavy winds. But I'm going to step out of the way because it didn't take long to find damage just like this. Downed tree limbs. We're actually at the Holiday Inn Express Hotel, where another crew of ours is staying overnight to get some rest. But take a look at this. This tree limb came right crashing down during the storm. Obviously broke the back windshield here of this Toyota vehicle. And then I'm going to take you over here. We're going to walk toward the hotel over here to show you some other damage that we found right when we pulled up here. Gosh, this is just terrible for the folks whose car this is. But take a look at this. A light pole outside the hotel lobby came crashing down at some point overnight, and toppled right on top of this Cadillac. This is all severe damage of property that people are going to be waking up to in the morning. Again, we just kind of discovered this, stumbled upon this. And driving here, conditions weren't great. We had to go very slow. There are reports of down power lines all across Manatee County, as well as down trees. For the most part, there is a curfew in effect until 3 p.m. The sheriff saying it's simply, not only are they trying to keep people from getting outside and checking out the damage themselves, but he's saying the curfew is in place to prevent looters and to detract looters from happening, because with all the people at the shelters currently still, he says the last thing they need on their minds is potentially someone breaking into their home and stealing their valuables. Again, we're at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites here in Bradenton. We're going to pack up and start doing some driving around town and bringing you the latest on other damage reports, so we can find out exactly Hurricane Irma's destruction here in the Manatee County community. Back to you guys.
Hey, Ryan, can you tell us what the conditions are like? It doesn't, I mean, from what we can see, is it still windy? It sounds like we can hear the rain behind you.
No, it's not windy right now, but I can tell you in just the few minutes that we've been out here, there were very, very strong winds. And in fact, the EOC, it took them some time before they allowed us to come out because of the wind factor. They were clocking winds at 45 miles per hour. And as you saw, we just had a little gust. Maybe if my photographer turns out to the light, you can see the rain is coming down. It's coming down pretty hard right now. It's not a whipping rain. It's not a sideways rain. It's almost coming straight down on top of us. So again, those are the latest conditions we're experiencing out here. Very sporadic off and on, of extreme to moderate.
Yeah, that's certainly good news.
Okay, Ryan Smith for us in Manatee County. Ryan, stay safe out there, okay?
Hey, I also just got word that St. Pete is going to lift its curfew at 8 o'clock this morning. Again, that's in St. Pete. Curfew lifted at 8 o'clock this morning. As soon as we get word about other areas lifting the curfew, we'll let you know.
We have reporter Chris Welch for us now at a hotel in North Tampa. Last time we checked in with Chris, we were seeing some gusts of wind. Let's see how things are going for him now.
Yeah, guys, you know, we have been, for the last couple of hours, I have to say, it really has calmed down. It almost feels weird talking about it, listening to, you know, the juxtaposition compared to where we are and some of these other reports that we've been seeing and hearing about, these downed, very large trees on cars, near houses, on streets. Almost feel guilty describing, you know, where we are. We're
Hello, my name is Ines Alea from ToleratedCinematics.com, and today I will be talking about a video editing software called Filmora. Filmora is a video editing software specifically designed for people that don't want to waste hours and hours in learning a professional software and then spend another few hours in making their video. It's more focused towards people that want to do it for fun and want to get into video editing. So specifically for starters, but I'm making this video because I'm actually also going to use this software for my travels, or when I'm just going on vacations, or I'm what family, and I make a few videos and I want to make a quick edit. I think I will be starting to use Filmora because the results Filmora gets you are very nice compared to other easy to use software. It's very easy to use, and yeah, I quite like it. Of course, I will still use my professional software.
Hey guys, it's Matt, and I'm going to teach you how to use Filmora in 60 seconds. Hey George, can I get Hey guys, it's Matt, and I'm going to teach you how to use Filmora in 60 seconds. Hey George, can I get 60 seconds on the clock? Thanks, George.
Alright, here we go. In the top left, you have your media panel. This is where all your assets will be, like your footage, your music, and your effects. In the lower half is the timeline. This is where you will drag and drop your media. And in the top right is your program monitor. This is where you can play back your video. Importing media into Filmora is easy.
Hey guys, it's Matt, and I'm going to teach you how to use Filmora in 60 seconds. Hey George! What's up guys? In this tutorial I'm going to show you one of my best video editing tricks using Filmora.
দোস্ত কতদিন ধরে করে দেখতেছি না
আসলে দোস্ত সত্যি
ওই যে একবার একটা কাহিনী হয়েছিল না ওই যে বলছিলাম তুই কখনো মেয়ে পাবি না হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ গার্লফ্রেন্ড ওইটা ওই কারণে নিয়ে মনে হয় রাগ করছে হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা তাহলে একটা ফোন দে তো তুই দোস্ত কতদিন ধরে করে দেখতেছি না
আসলে দোস্ত সত্যি
ওই যে একবার একটা কাহিনী হয়েছিল না ওই যে বলছিলাম তুই কখনো মেয়ে পাবি না হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ গার্লফ্রেন্ড ওইটা ওই কারণে নিয়ে মনে হয় রাগ করছে হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা তাহলে একটা ফোন দে তো তুই
হ্যাঁ দাদা
ফোন দে দেখ ওই কোথায় আছে
ওই দেখ রিকোয়েস্ট আছে তো দোস্ত কই
What's up guys? In this tutorial I'm going to show you one of my best video editing tricks using Filmora. You'll learn how to manipulate speed like freeze frame, fast forward, reverse, and slow motion. You can download our software for free at filmora.wondershare.com. The link is in the description. Alright, let's get creative. Alright, first I'm going to show you how to do the freeze frame. So we have the clip here, and you can see it goes from George trying to bang on the remote control, I'm taking a sip of coffee, and then it goes back to George's reaction as he realizes he can freeze time. But there's no freeze frame right now. So what you have to do is pick a spot on your clip that you want to create a freeze frame. So I want to do the last frame on that clip, just as the cup is touching my lips. So if you click on your clip, and you look into the timeline tools, you will see one called Flash and Hold. It's right between crop and the power tool. It looks like a little arrow pointing inside a square box. So if you click on Flash and Hold, it will automatically create a snapshot for you, and it will add it into the timeline right after where you set the playhead. Flash and Hold will have a default motion to it. If you want to get rid of it and just have a still photo, you can right click on the snapshot and then go down to Delete Motion. And now you just have a still photo. So I'm going to resize it to 1.5 seconds. And now if I play it back, you can see I have my freeze frame.
দোস্ত কতদিন ধরে করে দেখতেছি না
আসলে তো সত্যি
ওই যে একবার একটা করে দেখতেছি না
আসলে তো সত্যি
ওই যে একবার একটা কাহিনী হইছিল না ওই যে বলছিলাম তুই কখনো মেয়ে পাবি না হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ ওই যে একবার একটা কাহিনী হইছিল না ওই যে বলছিলাম দোস্ত কতদিন ধরে করে দেখতেছি না
আসলে তো সত্যি
ওই যে একবার একটা কাহিনী হইছিল না ওই যে বলছিলাম তুই কখনো ওই যে একবার একটা দোস্ত কতদিন ধরে করে দেখতেছি না
আসলে দোষ সত্যি
ওই যে একবার একটা কাহিনী হয়েছিল না ওই যে বলছিলাম তুই কখনো মেয়ে পাবি না হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ গার্লফ্রেন্ড ওইটা ওই কারণে নিয়ে মনে হয়
রাগ করছে
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা তাহলে একটা ফোন দে তো তুই
হ্যাঁ দাদা
ফোন দে দেখ কোথায় আছে